St. Carlo Acutis.
Pray for us.
You know he's going to be a saint soon.
Yes. April.
Is it April?
Oh, that's very soon.
Blessed Pio Giorgio Frassati is.
Soon and very
I'm more excited
soon.
about him. I love Frassati.
Yeah.
I'm getting kind of tired of Carlo. I liked him at first, but then everyone caught on. Everyone's like, Carlo.
Well, he's getting canonized. I hope they
know,
catch on.
I know, but it's been 100 years since Frassati died.
Yeah, but a lot of people have been in the Frassati camp. All right.
That's true. Welcome back to Restless. I'm Father Joseph Gill, priest of the Diocese of Bridgeport, Connecticut, along with Paul and Lauren. And just to get it out of the way, Paul asked us to make fun of the way in which he shaved this morning, and I think wanted to take off a large section of his cheek.
Yeah, it's unfortunate,
Because
but it happened.
He did so, but I don't know if you can see it on the video on YouTube, but please,
now you can't see it.
please look at it.
Yeah, I got my finance vest, and I will hide it.
Things are rough. Yeah, well, he's wearing LL Bean, so I don't mind. I don't blame you for touting that.
Oh, LL Bean,
Bean.
such a prestigious brand.
It's bougie.
It is. Like if I was
so?
Patagonia or like Stio or one of those, I think those are a little bit higher end. What do you think?
All right, what do you think?
I agree with Paul here.
Really?
Yeah.
LL Bean's just kind of middle
No
of the road?
doubts. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I guess I wear Walmart brand clothing, so
Right.
It is a step
Can't
up from
comment.
Walmart brand. We'll
It
give
is.
you that.
It is. It
Step
is.
up from
You're right.
Land's End.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah,
Walmart,
exactly.
Land's End, LL Bean, Patagonia. It's kind of like
There,
Vineyard
Okay.
Vines. Then there's Vineyard Vines.
Oh,
but
Vineyard
Patagonia,
Vines. Vineyard Vines. Yeah, but
Yeah.
you have to be like 15 to pull off Vineyard Vines. I don't know. Like
Agreed.
when adults do it, I'm kind of like,
Living in Greenwich, Connecticut.
You're
or you're Granite. Yeah, you're from Greenwich.
all of these brands are welcome to sponsor our show.
As we trash you.
What?
That's what trash you.
Right.
That's right. Or send me on a free trip somewhere. I like that. But
Right. All right.
anyway, welcome to Restless.
Thus concludes the banter.
No, but it's actually a good segue. You see, the Holy Spirit works through everything, including your vest. Because the topic of today's conversation is how to move from a consumer mentality in your faith to more of a servant mentality in your faith. Because I certainly see it in most parishes. 80% of the work is done by 20% of the people, but it's really probably more like 95-5.
Right. Well, there's actually a thing about that. It's called the Pareto distribution. You can look this up. So generally, 80% of something is done by 20% of something. So like 80% of the mass of the stars in the universe is owned by 20% of the stars.
Is it really?
Like 80% of best-selling books is by about 20% of like authors generally.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So it's like this is like a common thing that happens in like the universe. It's an observable thing.
So, but I've heard this in organizations too. And speak to me about your companies and maybe companies you've worked for. Do you find that most of the work is done by a small amount of people, and a lot of people are kind of like free riders, or is that not the case because you can get fired?
Yeah, I mean, so it depends. That's harder to answer because companies are optimized generally, not always, but generally. So, but I would say in my company, so we have about 800 people, but 150 are on the investment team, which is making the decisions, right, that fuel the returns of my company. So if you do the math, that's roughly 80-20. I'm not saying, but it's not, but it's incorrect because I'm not saying the other 80% are like
they're not dead weight, right?
No,
exactly.
they're extremely
their own
important.
role
Yeah,
to
we
play.
can't operate without them.
Right.
Right. But in terms of like where the mass of where like the most public area and kind of the most of the effort of the firm is focused is actually on the investment activity because we're an investment firm.
That's what you do,
right?
For a living,
and it's only about 20% of the employees,
right?
So I mean, you see it play out there.
I don't know. What do you see?
I mean, going back to when I worked corporate and large events, there was definitely people I think that weren't working particularly hard that got to float their way up. Like that person's getting promoted. I mean, I think that definitely happens.
Yeah.
In companies.
So when we apply that to the Christian life, how do you see that manifest? I mean, in terms of people who volunteer or don't volunteer in a parish. I mean, when you were young, were you actively involved in volunteering, giving back, serving?
I was an altar server for nine years.
Okay.
Yeah, it got me out of class for funerals. Great.
That's a plus. That's
yeah,
a plus.
went to Catholic school. It was right next door. Parochial schools.
Definitely helps.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it though.
I was an altar server too for 5 years.
Were you really?
Yeah.
I don't think I knew that. That's interesting.
We've talked about it on this show.
Have we?
But
after
See,
200,
I-
after 200 episodes, I can't remember what we've talked about.
Yeah, no,
I
it's
told her
fair.
a story earlier today, and she's like, Yeah, you told me that already.
You said it on Restless.
I was like, I don't. It's been 4.5 years.
I can't remember, but I think I have a good memory when it comes to conversations.
That's good.
Other
That's
people
good. You're
remember
blessed. I
other
don't.
things that I don't. So
Yeah.
No, I think it parishes. Yeah, I think there's definitely people. Yeah, the 95-5 rule is probably most accurate. But I guess the question is that we're trying to answer here is like, is that necessarily a bad thing?
yes.
You say yes. Why?
Oh my gosh. Well, I would say that there's level 1. All right, actually, okay, there's level 0, or maybe it's level -1. The parents who drop off their kids at religious education and don't go to mass themselves.
So it's a very tangential connection to a
Yeah.
parish. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then there are the people that come, maybe not all the time, but they come.
Mhm.
Then there are the people that come every Sunday, but that's it. You can't see them at anything else. Then there are the people that will attend a few events. And then you have the people that serve. And it seems like once you get into that category, these are the people that do everything. You know, the parish picnics and sing in the choir. In my case, they're on some kind of team or planning council, right?
Yeah.
So we could use more people who are willing to help. And it could be small roles, you know, just own one part of something.
Yeah.
But those people are hard to find.
Yeah. I mean, I will say as a pastor, the thing that surprised me the most is the number of no's I get when I ask for help. It's usually a 60% rate of no, sometimes higher, especially with millennials. It's much higher.
Interesting.
What
Yeah.
are you asking for?
Could be anything. Serve on a committee, to come to a meeting, to come on a retreat, to, you know, and really anything. Anything. You just get a lot of no's. And it's not necessarily people don't want to. It's sometimes, you know, I'll ask, you know, hey, you know, have you ever thought about being a lector? Like, oh, I could never do that. I'm not good enough at public speaking. I don't have the talent. But then I'm like, well, obviously I think you do, right? I mean, that's why I'm asking you, because I see it in you, right? So why are you second guessing yourself, thinking you're unqualified? And then there's the vast majority of people are just, oh, I'm busy. I'm like, well, I know, I get it too, but like, I mean, we're all busy. And I mean, if you stop scrolling on your phone for 6 hours a day, maybe you'd have some time.
Yeah.
You know,
So they're, I think, in the consumer category. They're coming to your mass and they're being spiritually fed, hopefully, but they don't have this desire to serve.
yeah.
Or there's fear or something probably holding them back. They're likely not too busy, right? They're likely not.
Right.
Like everybody's busy.
We are all busy, right? But the thing I guess that makes me kind of like hold back on being too hard on them is that it seems to me that my job is to equip people really to be missionaries in their own field. So my job is to equip parents to evangelize their kids. My job is to equip workers to evangelize their workplaces. And that should be your mission field, not necessarily the church. So I can totally understand, you know, a woman who's raising 4 kids just being like, yeah, all I can do is just like, you know, try to feed them spiritually at home, versus I don't have time to teach CCD and to do 1,000 other things because that's my ministry field. That's my main location. Of course, that could be a cop-out sometimes, right? So it's hard to balance.
If it comes to the lector example, what if you said, well, maybe you did, well, I think you'd be good at it. Would you be willing to come meet me to try it out? Because like when you first introduce someone to something, they're like, I can't do that. It's like a big wall here, but they may not even realize what it is fully. It could be that they've built it up to make it bigger than it is, or I'm not good enough, all this stuff. But then if you show them actually what it is and that they're capable,
That's true. That's true.
they might be more open. They
There-
might come around to saying yes,
There's a
maybe.
there's a very interesting Catholic parish in Timonium, Maryland called a random town just north of Baltimore.
Never heard of it. Sorry.
Yeah, Timonium, small town, but just north of Baltimore, and the parish is called, I can't remember what the parish is called. No, Nativity Parish. And they went through a rather radical change, maybe about 15 years ago, where the pastor was fed up with people just kind of being like lukewarm, mediocre, and really not participating. So basically, he tried to model his parish on some of the evangelical churches, like Saddleback Church, that have gotten huge responses and really are filled and vibrant and all kinds of things. So he replaced the music with contemporary praise music. He did a lot of things that encouraged small groups. That was a big thing with him, was like the small group meetings. And one of the things that he does there is a program that he calls First Serve, which is basically like one weekend a year. He'll have everybody, basically like everybody has to sign up for some sort of ministry and just commit to doing it once. And that's it. And if you like it, you can keep doing it. but try it. Try something new. Try something different. You might find your charism, your gift, your talent, but there's no commitment if you don't like it. You're like, okay, just go home. Which I think is an intriguing idea.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. It's hard because I think so I think you brought up a good point about things like small groups. So I think the first step is, so I think there's two things we're talking about here, and I want to just disaggregate them for a moment. So you have diving deep into a ministry as a consumer versus leading a ministry or being part of the leadership of a ministry, or apostolate is probably a better word. And so we have to disaggregate those. So I think the first step is how do you attract folks to come to a small group? How do you attract to a women's group, men's group, something like that? I think, and usually that's by personal invitation. Mm-hmm. But that tends to be the gateway. Like you start going to, let's say, a men's group on Saturday morning at 7 a.m. or some ungodly hour. And then
it is always the worst hour.
Right. 6:30. Some are 6:30. I think St. Teresa's is like 6:30 or something on
if
Saturdays.
I was in the working world, I would not get up on my Saturday.
Well, that's the only, because they have kids. That's the only time they can, like, the kids are still asleep or whatever, and they can, like, break away. In any case,
Tuesday
but
night,
a lot of times that those groups start out by people going as consumers, but then over time, especially, it might take years, but eventually, especially if you have a rotating talk or something like that, then all of a sudden it means you kind of get pulled into it. You start investing your time into it, and then you want to invest more because what you put in. Usually with these things, with any type of ministry or apostolate, what you put into it is generally you get more out.
Yeah.
Right. It's what Jesus said. It's like you give a little bit and you get a lot more back.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
And that's the same thing with all these ministries. Like with C4C, Crossroads for Christ, which I helped, kind of lead in Stanford for 5 years. I got way more out of that than what I put in. What did I put? I did a talk once a month and like helped coordinate things. And what I got out of it was like an incredible catechesis and friendships and like all this like tangible things in addition to all the spiritual fruits that came from it as well. Right. I got a huge community around Connecticut of people that I know. It's like this little tiny bit of effort that I put in, I received so much in return. And I think when people start investing their time into these ministries, even if they start as consumers, generally that's how they can be led into leaders.
Yeah. Well, that's a great point too. That they have to taste the fruits of something that has changed their life in a positive way before they want to give back.
Right.
And to bring somebody from, someone in the pew to now leading a men's ministry, there needs to be gradual steps into that.
Yeah.
Right? Like either you feel that calling or you've experienced men's ministry and it's really changed your life. Same with youth ministry, young adults, right? Mm-hmm. So one of the challenges, of course, in the Catholic Church is that, for better and for worse, the Catholic Church is very priest-centric. I feel like our Protestant
that. So where does it?
Very priest-centric.
Oh, I thought you said pre-centric.
Pre-centric,
like,
yes. That was
what I heard.
Philosophical.
Right, that's it's before there were circles.
It's like on the inside out, man.
Yeah.
It's very priest-centric, right? So, I mean, our Protestant brothers and sisters kind of have more of a view of like everyone's a minister. Everyone serves, everybody gets involved. While there is a certain amount of very real separation between the priest feeds you and you as the sheep receive the feeding.
Yeah, that's right.
But is that a good paradigm? And if not, what should replace it?
Well, I would hope that priests continue in their vocation in ministry and doing
I hope
such.
so too.
I think we're all called to be disciples and we're all called to evangelize. So we probably need our priests to call people out a little bit and say, this is on you too, to grow the parish and bring people in and get people to come to our regular events and things like that. I think we need like a revitalization of parish communities because there's too many people that are just sitting in the pew.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, we're all called to be priests, to share in Christ's priestliness, kingship, and prophecy, right?
Right.
And so that means we're called to spread the gospel, and the lay people are the ones that are primarily responsible for the evangelization, not the priests.
Right.
But I do agree that probably has switched a little bit. I mean, you see that, right? Like Father Mike Schmitz and Father Mark Mary now with Rosary in a Year and Bishop Barron, like these are all priests that are, they're doing great evangelization work. And obviously there's like a team of lay people around them that are helping, but you're still mostly listening to a priest.
But at the same time, we have, and recently in the church, we've had such a groundswell of lay people who have embraced that calling to work for the church. Jason Everett, Chris Stefanik, some of the great speakers, Dr. Scott Hahn, right? These lay people who are dedicating their lives to the mission of the church in a
Right.
very
Yeah.
real way. But I just never want to discount the fact that most people are not called to work for the church
Mm-hmm.
in terms of being on the payroll, but to work for the mission of the church in their secular spheres.
Yeah, that's right.
In your business, in your neighborhood.
Yeah. So I go back to the question though of 95-5 is probably not the right balance. 5% of people doing 95% of the work.
Yeah.
I would say though that the way the church probably will end up though, like that's not a good ratio, but in terms of leadership and who's actually like doing the work, like Lauren organizes youth group and does young adult events, and I don't do anything anymore, which is also nice sometimes. I volunteer here. I think that you do want like competent, faithful Catholics doing that work.
Yes,
right.
Absolutely.
And so
yeah.
so we're gonna essentially as a you either volunteer or they kind of get voted up to those positions.
Yeah.
Whether they're selected, nominated, relied upon. That's kind of like a voting, right, of those people up to those positions. You need more of those people for sure. And so,
like, where do you find your people that help with young adult or youth ministry?
In our young adult community, but it's been difficult lately because, as I shared previously, we had a youth ministry episode. 2 of my great volunteers left. One went to a different youth group, and another one works, too much. And then I got someone new who doesn't come reliably.
right.
So I kind of have a gap now. And then the young adult events, we have like this small group. We're the party planning committee. We have a little, text chat, but they're not always available. So sometimes it's just me setting up by myself, which
That's
isn't
hard.
ideal.
No, it's very hard.
I would say young adult ministry is probably this is a young adult podcast, despite our ages, which keep progressing. But young adult,
That's what happens.
Just young adult is always your age plus 1.
That's
so it's
right.
Good.
That's our
It's good.
mantra.
Yeah. No, I think young adult ministry in particular is hard because it does have this feature of like graduation, which is not always a good thing. That's why I go back and forth, like my own thinking about how effective young adult ministry actually is. I think it is effective generally, but it's got this weird feature. Like when you have youth ministry, like there's always kids, right? There's always kids kids graduate, but the ministry doesn't, like the people doing the ministry actually doesn't have to
Right.
change.
We just
You could
get so old we can't play dodgeball anymore.
right. But but with young
Not
adult
anytime soon.
I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
He was playing today.
I was
saw
playing
it.
today. I was.
But
I had
young
to get
adult-
out that 6th grader.
young adult ministry is like particularly challenging because the people being ministered to and the people doing the ministering both are transient.
But I think the key is, and this is hard for any organization, but particularly in the church, is that we should always do our ministry with an eye to the next leader.
Oh, for sure.
Right. So someone who's leading a young adult ministry should be looking around like, who's gonna raise this up after me? Because it's easy in any ministry or any job just in general to cling to it and be like, this is my thing. I'll do it the way I want, and then when I leave, it falls apart.
Right.
Right. But that's not healthy.
No.
Yeah.
The healthiness is you're the next leader. Let's raise it up. So we just we have a great youth group in my parish right now, and just this past week,
I know it's helped led by 2 of your non-parishioners. A particular couple.
Most of my non-parishioners, yes, my good friends Sakile and Jerome, who were
Right.
on a former Restless episode about intercultural relationships. So tune into that one.
It's some episode number.
Episode 1 something. Yeah.
Right.
But anyway, so so we were just actually talking about, all right, we need to now identify kids who are going to their high school junior year to be the next core team. Junior and senior, we'll allow them to give talks and to do, and we'll really try to do some intensive formation for them so that they can then minister to others. So that's always that next, we should always be looking into the next step.
And that's why, I mean, not to go back to Crossroads, but that's why it's actually kind of worked in particularly in Stanford, which goes through these like crazy waves of like a lot of people and then it drops off. And we've actually been doing pretty well since COVID, but in terms of numbers. But with Crossroads, that's the thing. Like when you're a chapter leader, like I was of Crossroads, like the first thing, one of the kind of statewide servant team people, like the leaders of the organization, inform you, it's like, okay, who's next?
Yeah.
And then you as a chapter leader, you're actually like training your replacement throughout your time as chapter leader.
Right.
And that's the way it should work. And that's like Frazati in New York has had a really nice model of the same thing. You kind of know who's going to take it over probably a year or 2 in advance. And that it works well. You need some structure around that though. So that even
You
goes.
do.
So now you've actually introduced. So now I mean, because we're humans and so we like hierarchies, right? So now you've introduced like, okay, now you need a governing body on top of that.
Yeah.
You kind of vote those people up. And unfortunately, in a parish, that's you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, but let me ask you a question, because I think there's a great connection, an important connection between what is your charism and where you serve, right? Because we don't just want warm bodies, right, to take over for Crossroads for Christ or to work with youth, because you have to have a certain charism, a certain desire, talent, gift of the Holy Spirit to do it. So 2 questions is, first of all, how do you identify people that have the charism of leadership in any realm? And B, what does somebody do if they want to serve and don't know what their charism is? 2 questions. The first question, like how do you identify somebody with a characteristic of leadership or youth ministry or even giving talks, or how do you identify that?
I think it's through their interests. So, I mean, generally it's like, well, what are you interested in? It's like, well, I really like talk to somebody. It's like, I really like knitting. It's like, great. Okay. That's the start of something. You could start a knitting group. Like,
You could.
right? And then you could talk about the faith as you knit. Right? You could pray the rosary while you knit. Like, I don't know.
Wait,
Like,
how do you pray the rosary while you knit? You
one
need
person
both,
doesn't
You need
knit.
both hands. Like,
one person doesn't knit.
That'll
Right?
be
You
me.
could
I
figure
can't
this out.
knit.
Right.
Never tried.
But like, you know what I mean?
Probably
Like,
could.
so it's
Probably
a
could.
silly example, but it's actually true. It's like you really like Bible study, you love Bible timeline or whatever, Bible in a year, whatever you're doing, Bible. It's like, great. Go read the Bible with people.
Yeah.
Do weekly mass readings, get the Jeff Cavins thing, like go do something like that.
That's what
You
we
know?
were very blessed in my parish to hire a family ministry coordinator. But we hired her. She was a parishioner, and we hired her because she was already doing everything just unpaid.
Right.
So this is like, I can see you're doing it and you're effective.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just make this official,
Right. And so I think that's kind of how you start. And then the people that you invite in, now you have a more intimate touch point with the people that are actually in these ministries
Yeah.
or participate.
Your second question was someone wants to serve, but they don't know what their charism is.
Yeah.
I don't see that happening. Do you?
Not as much as I'd like to.
Like someone
Yeah.
coming up to you, really, Father, and being like, "How can I help?" But I don't know what I'm good at. Like,
Occasionally, but not, yeah.
Okay,
n-
Well, I
not
mean,
as-
Yeah,
not
I
as
mean
much as
that's it's like, okay, I don't know what to do. It's like, okay, well, like we're having this breakfast or something on this day. Can you come help clean up? You can do that. Anyone can help clean up. It's like, boom, that's it. I don't think that happens very often. To Lauren's point, though,
not as
So
much
you
as it
could-
needs to
But
be.
it's just
But-
it's the idea is that you want to get people into that 20%.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, anybody can help clean up, but again, sometimes, and I know this is a perfect world. We're looking for this perfect world, right? Where it shouldn't just be like you're a warm body, so do it, but more like you feel called and you get fulfillment out of it. Because there are people that get tremendous amount of fulfillment from taking out the garbage. We have one man in my parish who every year signs up for garbage duty at the festival. And he has the brightest smile when he's doing it. This guy named Mark. And I'm like, wow, God bless you, man. He's like, I love this. I love serving. I love just doing this kind of humble labor. Like this is what brings me so much joy.
Right.
I'm like, that's why you're an awesome human being, because
Yeah.
it doesn't bring me that much joy to take out the trash. But you got to find the people to do that. Now, but that's kind of a challenge when you're faced with real life, right?
Mhm,
Because I've got 2,000 parishioners, right? I can't ask everyone, what do you feel like you're called to do?
Right.
Until I
Isn't
find the
there
trash
some
person.
discernment, though, that priests have of knowing their parishioners' charisms, or being able to read charisms, or they have
I
some
would love that,
authority
but-
over them.
Did you learn that at Mount St. Mary's?
I did not. No, I mean, that's a great idea. I would love for that
I
to be
think
the
there
case.
is something there
There might be.
spiritually.
There might be.
Yeah.
I remember when last time I was at your parish, you asked this young boy, it's like, are you going to come for like altar server training next week or something? And he was just absolutely mortified to even look at you in the face.
Oh,
But
yes.
he
yes.
seems to be interested.
Yes, I know who you're talking about.
Right.
He's never
right.
come yet, but
Okay, well, there you go.
sadly.
But you invited him.
yeah, exactly.
Maybe that's not his charism.
Maybe not. Maybe
Right.
not.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's just about, I think that in order to identify, it's odd, but I think if you can find ways to get people consuming more than just mass, as I said before, then you can actually find they will be able to find their own charisms.
Mm.
Right. And it might take some trial and error, but I think that's the key. And how do we do that? It's actually the way people get more involved in their faith instead of just going to mass is by doing their faith outside of mass. So I think by encouraging people to pray the rosary every day or pray a Hail Mary every day or something, that is actually how they're likely going to bubble up to the 20%.
Yeah.
Right. that's actually the root. It's not, come play sports on, Sunday morning or Saturday mornings or something. It's like, no, actually go pray, go to adoration once a week, like something else. Go to confession once a month, like do something more.
Yeah.
That drives you deeper into your faith, and then that should inspire. That's the response of grace is faith, and then the works should follow.
So can I put Paul on the spot?
Uh-oh.
I'm asking you. Okay?
Oh.
Right.
So no, here's my question for you, right? So you're not involved in C4C anymore.
No, I graduated.
Yeah. So where do you think you're called to serve now?
I'd like to get involved with
award-winning show.
Yeah, I'd like to.
Restless.
I've been test driving a bunch of like men's ministries, different like flavors of that.
Oh, good.
So I think that's probably what's next. I don't know. But I'm a consumer right now because I'm not a leader yet.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that's really, I feel like we had a kind of a men's Bible study going in Stanford for a while, and unfortunately that has fizzled.
Yeah.
Just because it's just too hard.
Again, 6 cycles.
It's a cycle, yeah. And we had a few people just kind of like leave, and it wasn't like, and I'm the culprit of not being consistent because I travel, I stay in hotel rooms like 50, 60 days a year, which actually isn't that bad, but it's enough. Yeah. It's enough where I'm not consistent.
Yeah, definitely.
Because of work. So
definitely.
So I'm not like the best person to lead something like that right now. Maybe in the future if travel slows down or something. But
sure.
But that's where I'm kind of heading toward. I like this ministry. I'm not leading it, but I participate.
Good. Yeah,
Sorry.
Regarding you, you do young adult ministry and youth ministry. Like, do you feel like this is going to be something more long term, or you're kind of discerning a new path in life?
I hope not. I don't think so.
Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah.
I like doing events. I'm good at them. It's something I used to do as my full-time job. So, they're fun. I would love to be able to hand them off. But there aren't that many people.
Yeah.
So, we have like 5 of us maybe on our Stanford council. There's someone that does the mass, Faith on Tap. I do events, service, and then the email. And then someone does social media too. And I just added her to invite her to our next meeting to try. But I get asked often, like, who else can we bring in? Who else can we get to help with youth ministry? Who can we get to volunteer at the parish picnic? Like, I had Ultimate Frisbee in the fall. And I was like, I can't give you anyone. I don't know. I'm at like a kind of dry spell of who do I see as being someone I can recommend?
I think that's part of it too, is that we really should be praying and fasting for God to raise up the right people. Because I have all kinds of people that come to me and like, oh, Father, the church should do X, meaning like, Father, you should start this ministry. Whatever it is. We don't have a men's ministry. There's a lot of ministries I would love to have if I had 3 of me, but I don't. So I think the solution to that is, if you don't feel called to start it personally, to pray and fast that God will raise up the right person to start it, who has that charism, who can do it successfully and well. But at the same time, because everything in parish life is cyclical, it's okay to let something die so that something else can take its place.
Yeah, sure.
That men's Bible study that I went to a couple times, I really enjoyed it. And it had great fruitfulness for the 2 or 3 years that it was running.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
It was great. Yeah.
Phenomenal.
And then everyone left.
But that was, you can't discount the fact that was 3 years of the gospel being preached.
Yeah, no, it was great. Yeah, we actually were able to get through all 3 cycles of the liturgical cycle.
There you go.
Of the liturgy. Yeah. Of the
there you go.
Lectionary. So yeah, we were able to do that, which is great. So no, I'm not discounting that at all. And it's okay. You're right. It's okay to let things die. I think but there's also some goodness in keeping things going too, persevering.
Yeah.
Well, I have a question. Like, so C4C, for example, it meets at St. Cecilia's in the parish hall pretty much every week. And this has gone on for years now.
7.5 years.
And like that same parish picnic that I couldn't go to, someone who knows me because I'm on the Communio team and I do youth group and whatever, they're texting me, we need people to help with kids' games. It's like so simple. And then I asked someone who is a leader now, could you ask the people that come to C4C, considering they use the hall every week, will anyone step up? No one steps up. Why is this hard? And it's very frustrating, just truthfully. I think part of it is, how do we invite people? I think that really matters. It has to be personal invitation, maybe because I wasn't there personally to say, this is very simple. It's an hour of your time. Do you think you can give it? on a Saturday.
Yeah, putting out a blanket invitation is usually not as valuable.
Right, and it came from someone else, right, not through me. So maybe that was a problem. But I don't know. I would just hope there'd be some desire. Yeah, sure, I'll give back to this parish, because also none of those people attend the parish.
Yeah.
They don't go there. They just use the hall. But there should be some desire to give back, I think. And then the other thing that I want to add is I think this service requires a spiritual maturity as well, where you are living the spirituality more of service and more for Christ. Because a lot of people hear it, right? We're supposed to follow God's will, but are they actually living it? You know what I mean? Do they even know how to live it? Do they have someone that's leading them spiritually? Someone to ask, should I help out at this thing? You know what I mean? Or it's just like, no. Or let me go talk to my spouse, which is the automatic no. I'm just being polite about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Or the Christian knows, let me pray about it.
That's the
like,
worst one.
Yeah, you're not really
That's
praying
the
about
worst.
that.
Don't do that.
Just
you know?
say no to my face, okay?
People,
I
don't do
think
that. That's bad.
I think with most things, and this is hard to do in a large scale, but I do think like you were saying, the blanket invitations is just doesn't work generally.
Not much, yeah.
Right. You get very few. But I think the more personal you get. So when C4C in Stanford was in 2018, it started to really like die. Like we were discerning, should we keep the chapter open?
Wow.
It was, and it happened again actually in like late 2022. Same thing happened. But we kept going. We did persevere, which was my prior point. But I think one thing that I started to do as a chapter leader is that instead of just like constantly sending out like the giant WhatsApp, like, come tonight, it's this talk on this topic, come to C4C at, wherever we were holding it at the time. I started to go through and individually text like every person that I had numbers for.
Yeah.
Be like, really hope you can come tonight. This would be a great talk. And we have adoration after. Come for something. Come for just the adoration. I don't care. It's better than,
Yeah, yeah.
And the numbers started to increase. And so when you have like that type of, so with helping out with games, it might be more like, it's generally more effective to like personally invite. Now you might not be able to do it, but the person could individually invite people, and you probably get a higher response rate. You're going to get a lot of no's.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, and like you said, like at your parish, like you're going to get a lot of no's and you personally invite people.
Yeah.
But you probably do better than just like at the post-communion,
Yeah,
post-communion
announcements, yeah. Hey, we're having this retreat, come. Yeah,
right, and people are like, they
whatever.
They want donuts.
Yeah. That's right. But I think back to Lauren's point, I know we don't have much time, but I think there's the cultural philosophy of individualism is so deeply rooted as Americans that we really do kind of don't see the whole community as a whole and our responsibility to it. I think more and more we're living fragmented lives where we're just concerned about me and my very small sphere of influence, which might be my family, might be my few friends or whatever. But instead of like seeing myself as a part of a living organism, like a parish or like just the church at large, and I have a responsibility to the body of Christ. And that's a challenging mindset to overcome, because I think individualism is preached nonstop in our culture from the time we're little kids in school. Be a success. Look out for number one. Be the award winner. Everything.
Yeah.
What am I going to get out of that? It's probably another.
Well, that's the thing. You get so much more out of it.
Well, that's the irony, right?
That's
it's
it.
A lie.
Yeah.
It's a lie. I think, or I think there's probably that one, and then too I'm not good enough. I don't know the faith. I can't teach religious ed. Anyone could, basically, right? Like, there's a book. There's other people to help you out.
There's a bar. But
go listen to all of our Restless episodes, and you'll be set.
Except for when we potentially say like, oh, this might be heretical, comma.
Only Paul says that, but.
Oh, yeah.
You can do it. It's a lie. It's a lie that the devil is using,
True. You got to embrace that. And you're so right in that you receive more than you give. You always do.
Sure.
You always do. That's why I continue to teach Cardinal Kung. That's why I continue to do youth ministries.
Restless. Come on.
And restless, because I come out of these being like, that was edifying. That was uplifting. And I love the connections that we have with one another. And that's that makes for a happy life when you're connected to the body of Christ, the church, and your brother and sister believers. So thanks for joining us in this episode of Restless. My challenge for you all is to truly look at your life and say, are you merely consuming the faith for your own benefit, or do you see yourself as an apostle? Because every Christian needs to move into that stage of Christian maturity where they say, now I'm so on fire with love for Christ that I want to give back. Whatever it is. Maybe it's your parish. Maybe it's something that's kind of like just your own ministry, your own mission field. But you've got it. You have it. And we've got to bring as many souls to heaven as we can when we pass away. And nobody is excused from that duty and that privilege to share the gospel in whatever way we're called. So you can find us on Veritas Catholic Network, 1350 AM, 103.9 FM, and wherever you get your podcasts. So tune in next time to Restless.